Good morning, and welcome to Sunday morning here in Rochester. Yay! It's good to see you all. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you are on life's journey, and whomever you love, we welcome you here into this sacred space together. We are First Universalist and First Unitarian, two vibrant, loving, historic churches in the great city of Rochester. And while we are indeed two separate churches, we are both Unitarian Universalists. Our shared faith teaches us to heed science, to care for the vulnerable, to celebrate life, and to come together in partnership, sharing what we have. And so in this moment, when we can't meet safely indoors, the folks on Clinton Ave have joined the folks here on Winton Road to gather online and outdoors in person. Here we are here. At the top of our worship service, we acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Universalist and First Unitarian now stand. If you are here for the first time this morning, you are in good company. None of us have really ever done this before together. So we're so glad you're here, and we're so glad that you've made it here to this space. And we hope you'll connect with one or both of our congregations, joining us while we meet together and finding a home within Unitarian Universalism. Online, for our folks online, you will see links in the chat to the visitors forum. And here in person, we invite you to stop by our welcome table. Let us know how we can connect with you so that we can offer you a welcome beyond today. I am Reverend Lane Campbell. I am the settled minister of the First Universalist Church, and preaching today is Reverend Sherry Halliday Kwan, the lead minister of First Unitarian. Leading worship with us today are the fabulous music directors, Tommy Snell, as well as Brock Tesvold. We have Reverend AJ with us too. We have ushers, greeters, chaplains, and hosts making all of this possible. And of course, it's not church without the people, without you. It is so good to be together this morning. Welcome. And at the top of our worship service, sorry, Reverend AJ, I actually want to give us a moment to just take a second to look around here. Look at who's here with you And if you would like, I'd like to invite folks just for a brief moment to rise in body or in spirit and to greet your neighbor, either with a wave of hello, an elbow bump.
Long time no see. Hard to recognize anybody with their masks on.
I recognize people.
Hmm?
I recognize people.
We could all return to our seats. It's wonderful to greet one another this Sunday morning. Can folks outside the tent hear me? We're returning. I know it's very exciting to say hello to everybody. As we begin our worship services by lighting a chalice, the central symbol of our faith. Our chalice includes two rings, one symbolizing Unitarianism, the other symbolizing Universalism. It is good to be together. If you are joining us from home, I invite you to light a chalice with us at home. And here in person, I invite up Tom Williams, a member of First Universalist, to light our flame. Our unison words are used by First Unitarian. They are on screen and in the order of service. Please join me now. May the flame we now kindle inspire us to use our power to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, and to seek liberation in the fullness of community.
Dear ones, will you join me in singing our doxology together?
I and my wife have moved 6 times in the last 10 years. So we've gotten pretty good at being the new folks in town, getting to know a new area. Or at least you'd think we would. Turns out moving gets a little bit harder each time. It's very exciting to move to a new place, get to know people, but that well of energy to unpack the same boxes again and again, that well gets a little smaller each time that there's a move. So there's a little less energy to go around. Luckily, the neighborhood where my wife and I just bought our house is very friendly, very welcoming, helpful neighbors. Last week, we even had their annual block party that they invited us to, and was very nice to go and meet everybody. And everybody asked us the same questions. We got a little practiced at saying the same answers to the same questions and predicting what questions would be the follow-up answers, so making sure we could say things. Yes, we just moved here from California. No, we were only there for 2 years, so we're really from the East Coast. We grew up in Virginia. Yes, we actually spent 3 years in Boston, so we are excited about the winter. We should be prepared for it, we think. But it also was hard doing that over and over again, and we found ourselves mixing up words or telling the story out of order. At one point, I even said, "I'm Ada, and this is AJ, and we just moved from Rochester." So I think this is one of the reasons that we come to religious community, because even as familiar as we may get, with beginning again and again and again. It can get a little harder each time, and we can all use a little grace and a little patience.
I invite you now to rise in voice, body, or spirit and join us in singing our hymn, Morning Has Broken. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for them singing, praise for the morning. Praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise with the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's of day. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Please be seated.
All that a congregation is, all that any community is what we bring to it. Our time, our love and care, our skills and talents, and our financial resources. This morning, we dedicate our offering to the work and witness of Unitarian Universalism in Rochester, and we invite you to give to both or either of our two churches. We encourage you to give online. You can donate to First Universalist at bit.ly/donate_UURock, or you can navigate to their website and click donate. And you can donate to First Unitarian at rochesterunitarian.org/donate. If you'd like to give cash, there are baskets available on our side tables. Grateful for your generosity, the offering will now be given.
Golden afternoon. Beautiful crimson corridors beckon me, amber fields wave to me gently. Morning of sun, fall is here, and winter is on its way. Stillness to the evening as moonbeams softly shine from a harvest moon. There's a warm glow to the forest as the woodlands share with us their bouquet. Corridors beckon me, amber fields wave to me gently. Morning of sun, fall is here, and winter is on its way.
It feels like the best thing to follow this music with is just a bit of silence. So let us enter into the holy quiet together. Peace shared here in this space amongst our breaths and our beating hearts. Let us enter the holy quiet together. As we emerge from sacred silence together, will you join me in prayer? Spirit of memory, Spirit of the present, we come to this space out of many different experiences and stories, tumbling into the present moment, doing our best to keep hearts and minds open to what comes. And yet we are living in some of the most uncertain times of our lives. Spirit, soothe our hearts when we grow fearful about what is to come and what we have lost. Be with those suffering, those here among us who have been affected by addiction, those who have loved and lost someone close to them this week, the dear souls here who care for someone who is sick, loved ones grieving the death of Dick Brush, whose memorial was celebrated this past week. Invite us into authentic space with those around us. Empower us to do what we need to do to get our needs met. Turn our hearts and our minds towards gratitude. Keep us open to the gifts you bring us alongside life's sorrows. Help us to see where love is at work in our collective lives. The moments when our joys outweigh our sorrows. The times when it actually feels like we can catch our breath. Precious moments on warm days outdoors. Looking into the eyes of someone we haven't seen in a while. We come here seeking ways to grow our hearts to hold it all. Hearts big enough and wide enough to be present to pain as well as deep joy. Hearts tender enough to risk being hurt for the love we know we need to survive. Spirit, enter our hearts on this day. Help us to set our burdens down at the shared altar of memory and community, that we may be healed and held by those around us and by you. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Dear ones, we know that there are so many here amongst us who are holding both tender joys and sorrows in our hearts. We honor the many joys and sorrows present here amongst us this morning, whatever you are carrying, whomever is on your heart and mind, however you came here this morning, this is ritual time set aside to honor that we each come here to worship with both celebrations and deep sorrows. To honor these joys and sorrows, we ask that you make your way to one of our 2 joys and sorrows stations, where you may place stones from our own Great Lake, smoothed by the waters and the waves, into our shared waters this morning. You are invited to lift the weight of the stone of your joys and sorrows and to release them into the healing waters of this community, to be held and supported. So please make your way into our joys and sorrows ritual this morning.
Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Let's sing that together. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Let's try that again. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Loosen, 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 baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go.
I invite you to take a moment and tense up the weight of the world in your body and let it go. Let's do that one more time.
Our reading today is Things to Do When Grief is Concerned by Tricia Hersey. Call Walgreens Pharmacy and wait on hold for 20 minutes to place an order for a prescription. Be delighted when the pharmacy tech answers. She is so sweet and pleasant. We are both overwhelmed. Pray, rest. Smile when you hear the U.S. mail truck drive near your house. Rest. Send selfies. Nude ones if you have consent. I added that part about consent, but it's important. Respond to any text with a heart emoji, even the one from Pizza Hut. And rest. Deactivate your Facebook page, your Twitter account, and leave Instagram for a while. Seek out valley moments. Things are grounded there. Rest. Build an altar with the bathtub as the base. Pour warm water. Epsom salt, eucalyptus, and lavender oil. Baptize yourself daily. Mourn in the water. Uplift your privilege in having clean water and oils. Rest. Reminisce about the time when you were a child at church and you counted your mother hug 40 people between Sunday school and when the 11 a.m. service ended. Long for hugs. Rest. Get drunk off uncertainty and remember that your ancestors built a spaceship from uncertainty. Stand in the traces of this resistance. Embrace the power there. Rest. Cry for no particular reason. Cry, and then realize mid-cry that there are so many reasons. And then rest. Write 15 handwritten letters, mail them by getting dressed up after a week in sweatpants, walk to the mailbox at the end of the driveway, walk slow, pose, look up at the sky, and rest. Stare out of every window at every tree. Examine the sky. Give thanks for deep daydreaming. And rest. Embrace the feeling of being out of control for 15 minutes. Feel your body free fall into a cloud of care. Diagram this moment. Archive it for the future. And rest. Rest. Deep rest. Slower movements. Slower moments. Focus on things with intense study. The way my hands move while washing the dishes, the smell of cocoa butter, how my cat's stomach moves up and down while he naps for 10 hours a day. Become a vessel for stillness, a miracle walking, nap, and rest. If you've been around for a while at First Unitarian, I've read this to you before. If you've been around for a while, I've also read to you the reading that Reverend Lane read you last week. Repetition is good around this time. We are not for want of too many things to navigate right at the moment. It's not for want of reading, not for want of taking in information, not for want of availability of a million things to think about, that we bring you something again. And in fact, in this particular collaboration, I've been enjoying an opportunity to do that thing that clergy do anyway, but usually on the sly, out in wide open, which is to say, steal books from my colleague. Thank you, Reverend Lane. And so I thank you for this, and to Tom Rayner, who brings us this question, the author of a book I nabbed off of Reverend Lane's shelf last week. Yeah. How many of you remember when President Kennedy was assassinated? All right. I sounded joyful there, not because I am glad that you remember that, though memory is a good thing, but because we seem to know each other well enough to know that that wasn't a rhetorical question, and I appreciate that you all are here. How many of you remember when the Challenger exploded? And September 11th? And the day that COVID-19 hit American shores? You all have better memories than I do. But the front row is a little bit more honest, or they're just brown nosers. Either way, here in the front row, and maybe those of you online, you're less willing to acknowledge or proclaim that you have a precise memory of the day COVID-19 hit. I don't. I'm a preacher, a pastor, and I love being with all of you, and so I track my life in Sundays, and I remember the Sunday that we didn't meet. And so I think about the Sunday before. And the Sunday before at First Universalist, it was a big music Sunday. And at First Unitarian, yeah, it was, right? And at First Unitarian, it was the Youth Sunday. And I said, maybe we should try this live streaming thing, and I held my phone on my lap. We've learned a lot since then. And after that service, I, with some other people, went to an abandoned Burlington coat factory to see a bunch of animals in some sort of private zoo that now, looking back 19 months later, I can make no sense of. But quite honestly, I felt the exact same way then. This abandoned Burlington coat factory, just as headlines about this new virus was hitting, was full of children and me just wanting to pet a sloth. I don't have a precise memory of when COVID hit, but it's a traumatic event, one that is still unfolding all around us. And if you made it here today, either in person or online, if you made it out of bed or made it at least logged on to your phone, maybe you're one of those people who, like me, is saying, yes, this is hard. It is. It's hard for everyone. But I'm doing okay. It's fine. Earlier in the summer, after I had been vaccinated, but before we knew about Delta, I found myself buoyed by the excitement of re-entering, of navigating new spaces. And though it was hard, I was dead set on figuring it out. And I admitted to many of you that when people would ask me, how are you doing? I would say, oh, I'm fine, before even a gap could exist before they ended their question, just to make sure that I didn't actually think about the answer. Just to make sure that fine was the word that came out of my mouth, as opposed to, actually, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I'm hyper vigilant. I'm constantly on edge. Everything is new, even though it's the old stuff again and again. But now it's 3 months later, and my answer is not quite as quick. I'd like to think I've gotten a little bit more honest, but the truth of the matter is I've gotten a little bit more tired. I'm seeing some nods, and I've heard this from many of you. We have navigated what it means to do old things anew and new things for the first time again and again over the past 4 to 5 to 12 months. We've navigated coming back to church in person. We've navigated coming to church for the first time in decades after staying away. We've navigated bringing our kids back to school, our grandkids back to school, having to once again say, I know we made those plans to get together, and it seemed like a good idea at the time, but I'm not going to be able to make it to your wedding. We've navigated a lot, and for me, that hypervigilance, that excitement that drove into a nervous energy that lived at my core. It may exist for some of you still, but for me, it's not there anymore. Instead, I've fallen into another place, or find myself occasionally tempted to do this, where instead I fall at the other end of the zone of resilience, the zone of growth, flat, tired, exhausted. Many of you may already know this intellectually, but this tiredness that I see in your eyes, that permeates the conversations that I have with many of you, that I hear people articulate, and that some of you, blessedly, may not be feeling at all, but many of us are. That tiredness is no different, really, than that hypervigilance and that nervous energy. It moves us out of a place of resilience and growth. It keeps us stuck in a place of not quite being able to live. Now, the collective trauma that we step into in pandemic, I think has revealed to me, and I don't know about all of you, your bodies may be temples, my body is an abandoned Burlington coat factory. The trauma of COVID-19 has revealed to me the overwhelming truth that my relationship with my body has never been particularly close. That the pain of an ache was something I would rather ignore, power through. That my temporarily able-bodied vessel, regardless of what it looked like or felt like, was not the object of my attention, was not something I cared to pay much attention to. The truth of the matter is it's worked pretty well for me so far. I've gotten a lot done in pandemic, despite feeling sometimes hypervigilant and sometimes a little bit flat. But that dislocation, that distance between me and my ability to speak to the reality of what all of these beginnings and all of these stresses feel like living within this holy coat, that dislocation is no longer serving me. And I don't think it's serving any of us. I think that dislocation for us collectively, societally, we see it also in the ways that we gather together. We see it also in the inability to communicate to ourselves when something among our gathering doesn't feel quite right. When there's a pain or an ache that we haven't quite reckoned with, haven't quite reconciled, haven't quite figured out the right cocktail of things to make it go away, we tend to ignore it. So charges of ableism or classism or racism, white supremacy living right here in our gathering becomes a thing that we push away in our body collective. That gap between our values and our behavior exists not only societally, but right in our very flesh and bones. The good news is we have resources to deal with it. A community that gathers each and every Sunday in spirit and song, in body, in mind, in silence and noise to reconnect us to our body collective and to our particular coat factory. We gather each and every week to be reminded and grounded in our deepest values. I had a conversation this past week with someone new to Unitarian Universalism who asked, "What is this thing that you do in worship?" And of course, with the 100 or so people here and the 100 or so people online, or more than that, we'd probably have about 1,000 answers. I've got 20 or 30 myself. In my mind, I'm still on that park bench telling this person about what worship means and its Old English origin and what we're planning to do with it in the future. But at its core, for me, the answer is always to be reminded of our deepest values, to be regrounded in our body collective. Both Unitarians and Universalists, Unitarian, Universalists together, we come together with a collective theology of original blessing, of the idea that our bodies, having found our way here on earth, are good. Our souls and our minds, though we might not always behave this way, are fundamentally good. I believe that each of you come here with a sense of that which is most important. I believe that you know the way that you wish to live in the world. And I believe that you fall and falter and fail at it each and every week in some way, just like I do. But each Sunday we come together just to be reminded of what that goodness might be. And so in this body collective, here in person as well as online, I'll ask you to type into the chat or turn to someone next to you something that you know that is good about yourself. Share it with them. Say it out loud. I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it to yourself. Whatever is the first thing that comes to mind, that is the right thing. And you can be shy, but I will wait for you to turn. I can see that there are so many good things about you. If the second person hasn't had a chance to share, make sure that they do. I'll give you 10 more seconds. All right. There are so many good things, and it is good to be reminded of them, good to remind yourself, and good to remind each other. It is good to know to know in our minds and our hearts and our words how it is that we would like to live. And yet we lose our way. We forget again and again, and that is okay. That gap between our values and our behavior, who we truly wish to be, and who we end up being on any given Tuesday or Friday, is all that it means to be human. But each and every week we gather to remind ourselves of our body collective. And each and every day, you have an opportunity to remind yourself of your own body, to ground yourself on this earth and return to your breath. Here at church, we tend to do the thing that we think is a bit countercultural, and we carve out space for quiet and silence and breath because there is so much else going on. And that is good and true, and we will keep on doing that. But we do an awful lot of that. And this week, our director of religious education here at First Unitarian, Sheila, and I, we were on a walk, and we saw like 15 feet in front of us a hawk land almost on a rabbit. I'd never seen this before, and I was horrified and amazed. But almost on a rabbit is not the same thing as on a rabbit. Just like being stressed and overwhelmed and having to begin again and again and again is not the same as having never done before. And this rabbit got away, and the hawk went away empty-handed. And this rabbit did this thing that I had never seen before but knew about. Maybe you all knew about it also. It shook. It ran behind a bush and it shook. It shook out the fear of being eaten. It shook out the fear of being caught. It, with its whole body, grounded itself in being behind the bush and not in the talons. And so silence and breath are tools available to us, but so too is rising in body and spirit. So too is dancing and singing. So too is being physically active. And so if you are online, when we ask you to rise in body or spirit, I know because I was doing this until 2 weeks ago online, I never did that. But I'm going to ask you to do it for real. And if you're here in person, I'm going to ask you to rise in body or spirit. And we are going to close out joyfully and loudly. Loudly. All right. Loudly. With building a new way.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free from hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need.
and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Woo!
Please remain standing. We will extinguish our chalice. And for those of you online, we're really depending on you for this because we burned out our chalice here. Please join me in our unison words. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. For all of you gathered here and online, I invite you to put a hand over your heart. I learned this from Reverend Lane last week. Thank you. We feel our hearts beat. Those of us gathered are connected here in community. May we go out into the world being reminded of what is good. May we go out into the world knowing that we return to our bodies, that we move, that we seek freedom, and that we love boldly. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.
Amen. Are we going to make our way down this way? Okay.